The door swung open, and my heart stopped. I was kissing Jamie, my roommate's boyfriend, in the dim glow of our apartment's living room, and there stood Mr. Hargrove, Jamie's dad, his face a mask of shock. Before I could stammer an apology, he did something that still haunts me every night. My name is Eli Carter, 25, a graphic designer scraping by in Seattle's bustling Capitol Hill. I'd moved here a year ago, chasing a dream job at a tech startup, only to find myself sharing a cramped two-bedroom with Jamie Torres, a 26-year-old barista with a contagious laugh and eyes that seemed to see right through me. Jamie was everything I wasn't: bold, unapologetic, and effortlessly charming. His boyfriend, Marcus, was my roommate, a 27-year-old law student who spent most nights buried in textbooks. The three of us had fallen into an easy rhythm, or so I thought, until that night 6 months ago when everything changed. It started innocently enough. Marcus was at the library, cramming for finals, and Jamie was sprawled on our couch, scrolling through his phone, his socked feet propped on the coffee table. The rain pattered against the windows, a Seattle staple, and I was sketching at the kitchen counter, trying to ignore how the light caught Jamie's profile. "You ever think about what you'd do if you weren't afraid?" he asked out of nowhere, his voice low, like he was testing the air between us. I froze, my pencil hovering over the page. "What do you mean?" I asked, though I knew exactly what he meant. I'd felt it for weeks. The pull, the unspoken tension that crackled when Marcus wasn't around. Jamie sat up, his dark eyes locking onto mine. "You know what I mean, Eli. That was the first night we crossed the line." A brush of hands turned into a kiss, hesitant at first, then desperate, like we'd both been holding our breath for months. Guilt gnawed at me, but Jamie's touch was a current I couldn't escape. We swore it was a one-time thing, a mistake born of late nights and too much wine. But one time became two, then three, until we were stealing moments whenever Marcus was out. That night, the night Mr. Hargrove walked in, we'd been careless. Marcus was supposed to be at a study group until midnight. Jamie and I were tangled on the couch, lost in each other, when the door creaked open. I'll never forget the look on Mr. Hargrove's face. Shock, yes, but something else, too. Not anger, not disgust, but a quiet, piercing sadness. He didn't yell. He didn't storm out. Instead, he stepped inside, closed the door softly, and said, "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. Jamie scrambled to his feet, his face pale. "Dad, I can explain." "No." Mr. Hargrove cut him off, his voice steady but heavy. "You don't get to explain yet. Eli, sit down. You too, Jamie." He gestured to the couch, and we obeyed, like kids caught sneaking cookies. My hands shook as I sat, the weight of his gaze pinning me in place. Mr. Hargrove, a broad-shouldered man in his late 50s with graying hair and a weathered face, wasn't what I'd expected. Marcus had described him as a stern, old-school contractor from Tacoma, the kind of guy who valued discipline over feelings. I braced for a lecture or worse. But Mr. Hargrove didn't lecture. He sat across from us, his hands clasped, and looked at Jamie with an expression I couldn't read. "I've known you were struggling, son," he said. "Not with Marcus, but with yourself. I saw it in you years ago when you came out to me. You've always been afraid of not being enough." He turned to me and I flinched. "And you, Eli, you're in this too. You think I don't see how you look at him." I opened my mouth to protest, but no words came. He wasn't wrong. Jamie and I had been dancing around our feelings for months, pretending it was just physical, but it was more, so much more. "I'm not here to judge you," Mr. Hargrove continued, his voice softening. "But you're hurting my boy, both of you. Marcus deserves better than secrets. And so do you." He leaned forward, his eyes searching ours. "Love isn't something you hide. It's something you fight for, even when it's messy. Especially when it's messy." His words hit like a punch. I'd spent my life avoiding messy, keeping my head down, my heart guarded. Growing up in a small Ohio town, I'd learned early that being gay meant being invisible. I'd carried that fear to Seattle, to this apartment, to this moment. But Mr. Hargrove's words cracked something open in me. Jamie, too, was quiet, his hands twisting in his lap. "I'm not telling Marcus," Mr. Hargrove said, standing. "That's on you. But you need to figure out what you want, both of you, before someone gets broken." He walked to the door, paused, and looked back. "And next time, lock the damn door." He left, and the silence was deafening. Jamie and I sat there, inches apart but miles away, the weight of his father's words settling over us. We'd been caught, but it wasn't the catching that scared me. It was the truth Mr. Hargrove had laid bare. We couldn't keep running from what we felt. That night, Jamie didn't go back to Marcus's room. He stayed on the couch, and I lay awake in my bed, replaying Mr. Hargrove's words. "Love isn't something you hide." I wanted to believe him, but I didn't know how. All I knew was that Jamie's touch still lingered on my skin, and the thought of losing him, or Marcus, tore me apart. The next morning, Marcus came home, oblivious, his arms full of textbooks and a tired smile on his face. "Hey, you guys look rough," he said, laughing as he dropped his bag. "Late night." Jamie and I exchanged a glance, and my heart sank. We couldn't keep this up. But how do you tell someone you love that you're in love with someone else? The days after Mr. Hargrove's visit were a tightrope walk. Jamie and I barely spoke, our stolen glances heavy with guilt and longing. Marcus, blissfully unaware, filled the apartment with his usual chatter, planning a weekend trip to the Olympic Peninsula. I tried to act normal, but every laugh, every casual touch from Marcus felt like a betrayal. Jamie, meanwhile, was unraveling. He'd always been the confident one, but now he was quiet, his eyes distant. I caught him staring out the window one morning, his coffee untouched, and I knew he was wrestling with the same question I was. "What now?" "Eli," he whispered one night, after Marcus had gone to bed. We were in the kitchen, the only light coming from the street lamp outside. "We can't keep doing this. It's killing me." "Then what do we do?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Tell him? Break his heart?" Jamie's jaw tightened. "I don't know. But I can't lose you." His words hung in the air, raw and unguarded. I wanted to reach for him, to pull him close, but the ghost of Mr. Hargrove's words stopped me. Love isn't something you hide. The next day, I called in sick to work and wandered the city, trying to clear my head. Seattle's streets were alive with autumn, leaves crunching underfoot, the air sharp with the promise of rain. I ended up at Pike Place Market, watching vendors hawk flowers and fish, the chaos grounding me. I thought about my life before Seattle, before Jamie. Back in Ohio, I dated a few guys, but it was always fleeting, always hidden. I told myself I was protecting myself, but maybe I was just scared. Scared of being seen, of being vulnerable. When I got back to the apartment, Jamie was waiting. "We need to tell him," he said, his voice steady for the first time in days. "Tonight." My heart raced. "Are you sure?" "No," he admitted, a small smile breaking through. "But Dad was right. We can't keep this up. Marcus deserves the truth." That evening, Marcus came home late, his tie loosened, his face lit with excitement. "I aced my mock trial," he announced, dropping onto the couch. "We're celebrating this weekend, right?" He looked between us, and his smile faltered. "What's wrong?" Jamie took a deep breath. "Marcus, we need to talk." The air shifted, heavy with anticipation. Marcus's eyes narrowed, sensing something was off. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice cautious. I let Jamie take the lead. He told Marcus everything. How it started, how we tried to stop, how we'd failed. His voice cracked as he spoke, but he didn't look away. I watched Marcus's face, saw the confusion give way to hurt, then anger. "You're telling me you've been sneaking around behind my back?" he said, his voice low, dangerous. "Both of you." "Marcus, I'm so sorry," I said, my throat tight. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "Didn't mean for it to happen?" he snapped, standing. "You're my roommate, Eli. I trusted you. And you—" He turned to Jamie, his eyes blazing. "I thought you loved me." "I do," Jamie said, his voice breaking. "But I love Eli too. And I don't know how to fix this." Marcus laughed, a bitter sound. "Fix this? You don't get to fix this." He grabbed his jacket and stormed out, the door slamming behind him. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jamie sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. I sat beside him, not touching, just there. "What do we do now?" I asked. "I don't know," he whispered, "but I meant what I said. I love you, Eli." Those words should have felt like a victory, but they didn't. They felt like a wound, because loving Jamie meant hurting Marcus. I thought of Mr. Hargrove, of his quiet strength, his insistence that love was worth fighting for. But what did that fight look like when it meant tearing someone else apart? Marcus didn't come home that night, or the next. Jamie texted him, called him, left voicemails that went unanswered. I tried too, but my messages felt hollow, inadequate. The apartment, once warm with laughter, felt like a ghost town. Jamie and I didn't touch, didn't kiss. The spark between us was still there, but it was buried under guilt and uncertainty. We moved through the days like strangers, avoiding the couch where it had all unraveled. I threw myself into work, designing logos until my eyes burned, but nothing could drown out the memory of Marcus's face. On the third day, Mr. Hargrove called. "Eli," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Marcus is at my place. He's not ready to talk, but he's safe. You and Jamie need to figure out what you're doing before you drag him into this again." "I don't know what we're doing," I admitted. "I love Jamie, but I hate what we've done." "Love's messy," he said, echoing his words from that night. "But it's also honest. You owe Marcus that much, and you owe it to yourselves." His words stayed with me as I hung up. I found Jamie in the kitchen, staring at his phone, a photo of him and Marcus on the screen. They were at a pride parade last summer, arms around each other, rainbow flags in the background. "He was so happy," Jamie said, his voice barely a whisper. "I ruined that." "We both did," I said. "But we can't undo it. We can only move forward." Jamie looked at me, his eyes searching. "What does that even mean, Eli? Do we just give up? Or do we fight for this?" I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that I couldn't imagine a life without Jamie, but I also couldn't erase the pain we'd caused. That night, we sat on the rooftop of our building, the city sprawling below us. The air was cool, the stars faint against the city lights. Jamie's hand found mine, and for the first time in days, I didn't pull away. "We need to give him time," I said, "and we need to be sure about us." "I'm sure," Jamie said, his voice steady. "I've never been more sure of anything." His certainty anchored me, but it also terrified me. What did it mean to choose each other when it meant breaking someone else? I thought of my parents, who'd cut me off when I came out at 18. I'd built a life without their approval, but losing Marcus felt different. He wasn't just a roommate, he was family. The next day, I went to see Mr. Hargrove. He lived in a modest house in Tacoma, a far cry from our chaotic city life. He welcomed me in, offered me coffee, and sat me down at his kitchen table. "Marcus is upstairs," he said. "He's not ready to see you, but I think you need to hear this. He's not just angry, he's heartbroken. He loved Jamie, but he trusted you too." "I know," I said, my voice thick. I don't know how to make this right. You can't, Mr. Hargrove said bluntly. But you can be honest. With him, with Jamie, with yourself. That's the only way forward. I left his house with no answers, only questions. But as I drove back to Seattle, I realized something. I wasn't the scared kid from Ohio anymore. I was 25, in love and ready to fight for it, even if it meant facing the mess we'd made. A week later, Marcus came back. He walked into the apartment without a word, his eyes red, his shoulders slumped. Jamie and I were eating takeout in silence, the tension between us palpable. Marcus, Jamie started, but Marcus held up a hand. I'm not here to fight, he said, his voice hoarse. I just need my stuff. My heart sank. You're moving out? I asked. He nodded, not meeting my eyes. I can't stay here. Not after this. Jamie stood, his hands shaking. Marcus, please. Let's talk. There's nothing to talk about, Marcus said, his voice breaking. You made your choice. He looked at me then, and the hurt in his eyes was a knife to my chest. I thought you were my friend, Eli. I said, my voice barely a whisper. I am. He shook his head and disappeared into his room. Jamie and I stood there, frozen, as the sound of him packing filled the apartment. When he emerged with a duffel bag, he paused at the door. I hope you're happy, he said, and then he was gone. The apartment felt empty without him. Jamie and I tried to move forward, but the guilt was a shadow we couldn't shake. We went on dates, held hands, kissed under the stars, but every moment was tinged with loss. I kept expecting Marcus to walk through the door, to laugh and make everything okay again. But he didn't. One night, Jamie suggested we go to a support group he'd found online, a space for queer people navigating complicated relationships. I was skeptical, but I went. The group met in a community center in Belltown, a mix of ages and backgrounds, all sharing stories of love and loss. Listening to them, I realized we weren't alone. Love was messy, just like Mr. Hargrove said, but it was also resilient. After the meeting, Jamie and I walked along the waterfront, the Puget Sound glittering under the moonlight. I want to be with you, he said, stopping to face me. Not just because it feels good, but because it feels right. But I need to know you're in this too. I am, I said, and for the first time I meant it, not just for Jamie, but for myself. I was tired of hiding, tired of letting fear dictate my life. I wanted to build something real, even if it meant starting from the ashes of what we'd broken. We started therapy both together and separately. It wasn't easy. Jamie grappled with his guilt over Marcus, while I confronted my fear of being seen. Our therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, helped us navigate the tangled mess of our emotions. Slowly, we began to rebuild, not just our relationship, but ourselves. 6 months later, Jamie and I moved to a new apartment in Fremont, a fresh start. The guilt still lingered, but it was softer now, less sharp. We'd heard through mutual friends that Marcus was doing okay, working at a law firm downtown, dating someone new. It hurt to know he'd moved on, but it also gave me hope. He deserved happiness just as we did. One evening, as we unpacked boxes in our new place, Jamie found an old photo of the three of us. Me, him, and Marcus. At a Seahawks game, grinning like nothing could touch us. We were happy then, he said, his voice soft. We'll be happy again, I said, taking his hand. Different but happy. He smiled, and for the first time in months, it reached his eyes. We hung the photo on the fridge, a reminder of what we'd lost, but also of what we'd gained. Love wasn't perfect, but it was ours. A few weeks later, we got an unexpected visitor, Mr. Hargrove. He showed up with a bottle of wine and a gruff smile. Heard you two got a new place, he said, stepping inside. Figured I'd check it out. We sat around our tiny kitchen table, sharing stories and laughs. Mr. Hargrove talked about Marcus, about how he was finding his way. He's strong, he said. Like you too. He looked at us, his eyes warm. I'm proud of you for choosing each other. It's not easy, but it's worth it. His words were a balm, a reminder that love could heal as much as it could hurt. As he left, he hugged us both, a rare gesture from a man who'd once seemed so unyielding. Keep fighting for it, he said. Always. That night, Jamie and I stood on our balcony, the city lights stretching out before us. I thought of Mr. Hargrove's words, of Marcus's pain, of the journey we'd taken to get here. Love wasn't a straight line, but it was a path worth walking. Jamie's hand found mine, and I knew, no matter what came next, we'd face it together.